Yeah.
Woo!
Woo!
But not too much woo. Just enough woo to get you going.
Just a little bit of woo. Just enough. Just enough. Mr. Boylan would be very proud that you're wooing in lieu of him.
I woo in lieu.
You woo in lieu. Hello everybody and welcome back to Fifth Period, the film podcast usually hosted by two media teachers, but unfortunately today Mr. Boylan is a little bit under the weather. And while it has left significant holes in both our hearts, I am very, very pleased to welcome back our residential Harry Potter expert to fill the void. My name is Mr. Brown and with me today is...
Mady?
I love this consistent uncertainty of saying your own name. So
I should just be, I'm Mr. Boylan.
yeah, do it.
Look at me.
If it makes you feel any better, he has a bit of uncertainty about saying his name because he has to come up with a fun pronunciation every week for a new one.
I'm Mrs. Banant.
Banant. Perfect. Mrs. Banant. Now, today there are a few things that are a little bit different. Obviously, we've got a different host, a different location, and the last thing that was a bit of a last-minute change too was this was definitely going to be an audio podcast, but we've had so many things that have been twisted and turned around, and in the end, we thought we could add a little bit of extra razzle-dazzle by cracking out the old orange jumpsuits.
Well, I mean, you found the outfits and it really just had to be a video podcast.
So true, so true. If I have that perfect outfit, there's no thing I can do. That's the way to say that.
Sure, there's no thing you can do.
That's it. Nothing I can do.
With the right outfit.
Mm-hmm. In addition to talking holes today, we will also be doing a weekly watches and tantalising trailers. So if you want to skip ahead to any of that, I will leave time codes in the description below.
Hey, it's Dennis, and today we're going to be talking about holes.
A big thank you to Deniz for his intro to the pod today. We're not the only Deniz fans here.
Thanks, Deniz!
Merely heard Deniz's voice and just jumped right on up here. But we've had Deniz on the pod before. I've taught Deniz a bunch of times, and I was really pleased I could get him back. This is actually the first year for media, I think, that I haven't had him, and I'm a little bit disappointed. We've got transition classes coming up, and the last I checked, he wasn't on my roll for next year either, but there's nothing set in stone at this stage, so fingers crossed I'll be able to work with him again next year. But thank you for always being a very diligent student, Deniz, and also being a very loyal supporter at Film Club. All right, let's jump in to holes. So, first things first, you all right?
First things first, I'm the realist.
You can put her down if she's in the way.
No, I'm her mum.
Okay, good.
I will never say no to her.
So true.
Also,
it's really hard to say no. How can you say no to that face?
Also, she had to watch Holes as well, so she has some things to say about it.
So true. Every time we have you on the pod, it does tend to get a little derailed. I'm glad that there's going to be a different party that's doing the derailing today.
Yeah.
Good on you, Mills. Taking one for the team. So, Holes, we kick things off with a very catchy song.
You got to go and dig those holes.
And I was digging it. I was digging it.
Diggity.
You got to bag it up. It's a bit of a weird opening, though, because I feel like they're establishing this camp environment, but we have no context for why they're doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we haven't met Stanley yet. We don't know he's going to get sent to this camp. And so it is a bit of a strange introduction to put this at the top. And also, why is that kid so keen to get near the rattlesnake? Everyone's warning him off it.
Maybe he just likes snakes.
Maybe he does.
He wants to be a reptile handler.
Or maybe it's just emphasizing exactly how bad it is.
Yeah.
wants to get out. But it felt like an odd choice to kick things off there.
Especially for a Disney film.
Kick things off with a mortally wounded child?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's dark. It's a bit dark.
A little dark.
Little bit dark. So we meet a very young Shia LaBeouf. And look, there's something very charming about a young Shia LaBeouf. I mean, say what you will about him going off the rails in later years, but I was a big Shia LaBeouf fan. Those early Transformers films, I mean, get around it.
He does good. He does good work.
He does good work. And he just kind of has this infectious energy. And I think that kind of carries over because we meet his family as well. And they are all really, really infectious. Like that family dynamic between them when they're all sitting around the dinner table and they're like singing the family song or whatever it is. It works really, really well. And big contributor to that, Henry Winkler, who is just
so good. As soon as the door opened and it was him, I was like,
yeah, you're going to have a good time with that. With that one very specific area of the film.
I like the mum too, though.
She's good. I was trying to remember what I'd seen her in.
You're getting kicked out. Kicked out? Why? Well, there's been a number of complaints. Yeah, like what? Well, like last Thanksgiving, you buzzed up a jewel thief. I didn't know who he was. That's why there's a buzzer.
But yes, Henry Winkler is always great. The Fonz.
You're their Fonzie, Pete. Hey! Right?
He's an eccentric inventor. I like this as a point of like, oh, what a wacky family he comes from. But I actually don't think the inventor storyline really pays off all that much. Like, he's trying to come up with this way to make the odor in your shoes disappear. And he does eventually figure it out by the end of the movie, but it doesn't really connect with the main plot.
Very tangibly does.
Well, like he uses onions and there's onions in the plot.
No, he uses onions and peaches.
And peaches. Is peaches to do with the main plot?
Yeah, you know, she makes her stewed peaches.
I see. Well, yeah, so there's like a really tangible link there, but then it's supposed to be this big moment because like the curse is broken at that point. It's like he's finally cracked it. It's like, but he doesn't need to work anymore because they're millionaires by that point in the film.
But there's nothing like solving your own foot odor problem.
He wants to be a self-made man. I did really like the family dynamic at the start of the film, but one thing I didn't really appreciate is the narration in this film. So look, I'm not against narration in film. Like, I love film noir where they've got their internal monologues. Ferris Bueller with the fourth wall breaking. Like, those are all examples of really good films that I adored that have it. But I hate when narration is pretty much telling you what we're already seeing on screen anyway.
Yeah. Is it the same? I'm trying to remember. Is it the same narrator the whole way through, or do different people narrate their own parts?
Yeah, it does change around. So it starts off and it's old Shia doing it. But then I think different members of the different Stanleys in the different generations narrate as they're telling like the story of like the backstory of their lineage.
Right. Yep.
And so I don't know, like I'm always telling my students, don't tell, show.
Show, don't tell.
So when he's like, so anyway, I was walking down the street and then we see him walking down the street. It's like, yeah, we know, we can see that. So I just think it could have been done a little bit better.
Yeah, definitely.
All my life, I seem to be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
But essentially, he is walking down the street, and a pair of shoes comes out of nowhere, smacks him in the head.
Falls from the sky.
It does fall from the sky. So essentially what happens is he gets falsely accused of stealing the shoes. So I've got it written down here. Whose were they?
Basketball.
Clyde Livingston, a.k.a. Sweet Feet. He's a baseballer. Yeah, I know, gross. Sweet Feet.
Baseball?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought he was basketball. That tends to be the shoe.
Just between us, I thought he was basketball too, but I looked it up. It's baseball.
Oh, I guess that makes sense because the poster on his wall, isn't it? Somebody doing a...
It might be like a baseball card kind of,
something.
I don't know. But anyway, old Sweet Feet, famous baseballer, has donated a pair of his shoes. Whoo-wee. Need to get some of that peaches and onions in there.
Well, not if he's Sweet Feet.
No, he's not Sweet Feet until the end of the film. But he donates them to the orphanage, which I believe he grew up in. And then yeah, they get stolen from the orphanage, and obviously they fall out of the sky. Stanley ends up with them, and so he gets falsely accused of stealing them. And the judge sentenced him to, I think it's 18 months at Green Lake Camp, or Camp Green Lake.
Yeah, either way.
Either or.
It's not green, it's not a camp, and there's
no lake.
There's no lake. So.
It's a very ironic name. Yes, what once was a lush green area with a big old lake in the middle is now all dried up. So he heads on over there, and we meet just a wacky group of characters. So we start off, we meet John Voight's character, Mr. Sir.
Yes.
Yeah, so not a great name, Mr. Sir. That's what my year 7s used to call me last semester when they couldn't remember my name.
Sir.
Mr. Sir, they said like a character from Oliver. Excuse me, Mr. Sir, can I have some more? You a bit hot?
Yes.
Yeah. Ooh, yep, I get that. I feel like we've been digging holes all day. Jeez, Millie. Warm.
No, you
It's a
stay
warm
with
day.
Dada.
Warm day. Alrighty, so we meet Mr. Sir, and the reason they call him Mr. Sir is because he doesn't want people to know his real name, Marion.
Marion.
Yeah, I feel like Marion's the name they always use when like a male character is embarrassed by his name. Come on, Mills, I'm gonna put you down because it's not a bad name. I don't mind it.
Marion.
Marion.
If you were born a Marion.
Yeah, so he wants to go by Mr. Sir instead, but I don't think he should be that embarrassed because we find out shortly after that Stanley has a much worse name.
I've forgotten what it is.
So Stanley's surname is Yilnats, and we find out that he was called Stanley because Stanley is Yilnats backwards. So it's this running joke in his family.
Right.
Why would anyone do that? That is the worst joke. And they don't just think it's funny enough to call one of the kids Stanley. He's the fourth Stanley Yilnats in the family.
It's too many.
That is taking a joke too far.
I'm not a big fan of family first names.
But look, it's a pretty consistent theme in this film. There are a lot of characters with a lot of wacky names. So we meet a few of the other kids at the camp. We've got, who do we have? Zigzag, Squid, Magnet, X-Ray, Armpit, Bath Bag. All great names. Great names. The funny thing I thought was when we meet Armpit, whose real name is Theodore, Stanley calls him Theodore, and then he gets like super angry and he's like, my name's Armpit.
Yeah.
Like, I can understand like Theodore's not the toughest name in the world, but it's better than Armpit. Would you really rather he call you that?
I mean, teenage boys.
Teenage boys. We also meet the camp counselor. I can't really remember what his name is, but I did remember that he was played by the same guy from Scooby-Doo 2 that plays Jonathan Jacoby, the main bad guy. You'd be forgiven for not remembering that.
I don't.
Scooby-Doo 2 yuckers.
Scooby-Dooby 2.
That's what they say. That is what they say. But he starts off and you think, oh, there's someone who's a little bit nicer to the kids. Like he's like, you're not a bad kid if you're here. It's okay. I believe in fresh starts. And he very quickly becomes the worst one there, I reckon.
Yeah, he's not great for some of the other kids.
He's really bad for Zero in particular. He says, there's nothing going on in Zero's stupid little head.
Yeah, and it's like, you probably...
Because he's a mute, so he says that. Like,
yeah, but he's not even a mute. It's just...
No, he's not. We find out quickly that it just takes a Stanley Yilnats to get him talking.
Yeah.
So we meet all of these characters. We find out that they are also there with a warden. There is a warden whom we don't meet until later in the film, but they do kind of set her up at this point. She's played to perfection by Sigourney Weaver. Her intro later is so good. But I did find it interesting. You got 3 adult characters here and an entire camp worth of kids. It's surprising that they haven't like risen up before.
Well, I think they can't go anywhere. That's
very true. They say like there's no water for like 100 miles and there's deadly yellowback lizards out there.
Yeah, and they're kind of like, I guess if you want to run away, go for it.
Yeah, well, that's true. So they're like, yeah, go. But I guess they don't have to run away. They can just like rise up and take over the camp. Heavyweight style.
But then they'll just like cut them off water and stuff.
So true. So true.
I mean...
This is why I got you on here, to answer these hard-hitting questions. We find out every day they have to dig a hole. It has to be 5 feet deep, 5 feet wide, same as their shovel.
Yeah, it's the same as their shovel, because that's why who gets the short one? Somebody always gets the short
that's
shovel.
X-ray or zigzag.
Yeah.
The one with the glasses.
X-ray? I don't know.
Nah.
Anyway, he gets the short shovel. That's his, because then his holes
he's
have
teeny
to be
tiny.
less.
That's right. But they say that they're building holes to...
Build character.
digging holes to build character. Building holes to dig character. That's what they say. But it's pretty obvious that that's not what's going on. We know they're looking for something because we also find out that if they are to find anything interesting in a hole, they get to take the rest of the day off. And the rest of the group then starts concentrating all of their digging to that area. So they're obviously looking for something. And this was a bit of a frustrating point for me. And it kind of ties into the way in which the narrative is structured. There's multiple storylines going on. And in particular, there's two kind of parallel ones that go. But then there's also some other ones filtered in amongst that. And I found it frustrating as a viewer, knowing what was going on, but having to watch it play out so slowly. We know there's a treasure there. We're not going to reveal what it is until the very end.
I guess, it took a while to, work out exactly what they were looking for and, why. Yeah. I felt like they built that suspense kind of okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because even when they were digging and you were like, well, what counts as... Because I was like, maybe it's, just gold.
Yeah, because they find, the fossil and they're like, nah, the water doesn't really care about the fossil.
So I was like, maybe they're just, looking for gold or something. I mean, it's probably the right environment.
Yeah. But let's talk those multiple storylines. So the main two is obviously Stanley at the camp, and then you got the Kissin' Kate Barlow storyline. But the way it's told in the film, it's all over the place. And I found it really interesting because, as I said, this was the first time I was watching it, and I was like, okay, this is a little confusing. I can follow it, but I don't think I would be able to do so with ease if I was a little kid.
Yeah, I don't it was way more fever dream-esque than I remember watching it as a kid. And I remember the story being more about the boys at camp.
Yes.
And their kind of relationships than I think it actually was. So that probably means I just identified more with that storyline. So I just focused on that.
That makes sense as a kid for you to identify it. Plus they were wearing the same clothes you were wearing. So you really see yourself in them,
as overheated as I currently am.
Oh, yeah. That's a bit of a consistent thing for the pod. We always overheat on the pod.
The next movie needs to... have some summer clothing.
Agreed. But the storylines kind of come in and out so rapidly. It really is hard to kind of keep up. And they do that slow motion, warped transition. I do like that because it kind of emphasizes the heat.
Yeah, it's the mirage.
To simplify our discussion, let's go through the backstory first, and then we'll continue on talking through the stuff at the camp.
Yeah.
Does that work?
Cool.
All right, so... first, we get, I think it's Yilnats or Alna.
Oh.
As I said, I've watched it once. It's he's Stanley's great-great-great-grandfather.
And it's the pig.
Yeah, three greats. He's working as a stable hand, and he's got the huts for his boss's daughter, and he wants to ask if he can marry her. But he has a bit of competition. Another one of the workers on the farm has given a hog in order to do that. So he's like, I can't compete with that. And he goes and he sees Madame Zeroni, and it's Eartha Kitt. Madame Eartha Kitt. Why do we even have that lever? So yeah, you can't see Eartha Kitt or hear Eartha Kitt and not go,
so good.
It's Yzma.
She's so good, though.
She's incredible. And she both looks and sounds... well, of course she sounds like Yzma because she's the voice, but I like that they've designed Yzma to look like her. And she's even wearing a purple outfit and the headscarf here. I was like, oh my God.
It's Yzma.
And so she offers to help. She's kind of like a gypsy woman, and she offers to help. She says, here, I'll give you this piglet. And she's like, what am I going to do with a piglet? And she's like, you have to walk it up the mountain every day, and then it will grow and be big and strong.
What is it, like drink from the stream or
Drink
something?
from the stream, eat from the
patch.
sweet onions, who knows? And she says, but the one thing you have to do, once you kind of get to the end of this quest and offer up the pig, you have to come back from Madame Zeroni, and you have to carry me up the hill. Why?
Because it's a magical stream.
It's a strange request. I really wish they had included that. I would have loved to see Yzma just get carried up the hill.
But then there'd be no curse.
That's so true.
There'd be no gypsy curse.
And no film, and we all would have been fine.
And no jumpsuit.
No, look, it's not a terrible film, but I've got my issues. I've got my issues with it. So he goes through this process. He carries the pig up there every day. Eventually, it gets too big for him to carry, so he walks it up, fattens it up, and eventually it's this massive pig, takes it to the father, and the father's like, okay, great, you've got a pig, this other worker's got a hog, I'll let my daughter choose. And he's all like, all right, here we go, she's going to choose me. He's a handsome young man.
Correct.
Well, I wouldn't say the same age as her, but a lot closer than this other guy. The other guy's like old, he's an absolute slob, and he's like, and surprisingly, she goes, I don't know which one to pick. Maybe we'll base it on the pigs. And he's so, like, outraged by the fact that she hasn't chosen him. He's like, what? Look at me. I'm an Adonis. How are you even considering this? And so he's fed up that she can't just make...
No, the pigs are the same weight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but he's just fed up that she wouldn't just pick him for his looks.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I'm out skis, I'm going to America. And he forgets to carry Eartha Kitt up the hill. So he is cursed by Madame Zeroni, who's Italian now. He forgets to carry Madame Zeroni up the hill.
Poor Madame Zeroni.
Poor Madame Zeroni. I would have carried Madame Zeroni up the hill.
Good.
Anyway, so that's the first storyline. And that's kind of how the Stanley curse, or the Yilnitz curse, started. But after we get introduced to that, then we start the Kate Barlow storyline. And this is the main one throughout the film. So she worked as a school teacher at the Green Lake back when it still was green and a lake. Mm-hmm. She falls for a peddler named Sam, who I was just delighted to see was played by Dule Hill from one of my absolute favorite shows, Psych. He is Gus.
Presenting Sean Spence Star and Gus TT Showbiz.
The extra T is for talent. But he's great, and he's really charming. Like, she falls for him, and you can kind of see why. Like, everyone else in the town is like a ruffian who thinks they can exert their power because they own the lake. And he comes in, and he's like a sweet man. He's selling remedies for everything. He's got his sweet onions that will help you out if you ever go out into the lake, because then the lizards won't get you.
Yeah, and then also just helps you, like, not age. His donkey was like 100 and something.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
When I first saw like the female actress like come up, you know, she's like on is it Medium?
Medium, yeah.
I was just like, I couldn't get that out of my head. Just her being like, I see dead people.
Yeah. Medium, aka The Sixth Sense. She's really good in this, though. Like, I really like their little storyline.
Yeah.
As I said, it was a little frustrating that it kept jumping back and forth, because you'd kind of invest in one of the two storylines, and then it would be like, now we're going off on this one. And so it was a little, like, disruptive to your empathy to the characters.
Really disconnected.
Yeah, so she's a school teacher. He comes in and he becomes kind of like her personal handyman. Like, her roof is leaking and he's like, I can fix that. She's so charming, that line. And then later on when she's sad, I can fix that. He can fix emotions. Oh my goodness. Anything leaking. Roofs, eyes, he can fix it. All of them. So yes, they become entangled in a romance, but I don't think it's like the mayor of the town. I think it's specifically the owner of the lake, Charles Trout Walker.
Trout Walker. That makes sense.
Trout Walker. So he is the great-grandfather of Sigourney Weaver. So we've been introduced to Madame Zeroni, Charles Trout, and Yilnitz or Stanley's great-great-great-great-grandfather. And it's like, and all of their descendants all happen to be at the same camp together where all of these events took place.
Because they're all cursed.
What a coincidence. But yeah, the owner of the lake, old Trouty Boy, spots them kissing, macking on, and he is not happy with that because he's already flirted with her. Very poorly, might I add. It's not a great pickup.
It was not a great time for mixed race couples.
Yes. Well, yeah, that's very true.
Which I thought, I was like, okay, this is good. We're delving into some deeper issues in this weird dreamscape film about curses and...
Yeah, look, and obviously it would be quite a controversial thing, and they even mention like that he's just like a peddler or a traveler or whatever they say, and it's quite derogatory, but it's also just because she's turned down his own advances. He's like a little like, well, if I can't have her, no one can.
But didn't he say, he was like, the issue is not that you kissed him back, the issue is that he kissed you.
That's very true. I'd forgotten that. I must have been part of my repression session. But yeah, really dark here. So they burn down the schoolhouse. They kill Sam. It's super... Are we sure this is a kid's film?
Yeah, they shoot him in his little rowboat.
Yeah.
Go and get his onions.
Really, really dark. And they kill the donkey too.
Yeah,
like,
rude.
And we always say this, and we've said it many, many a time on this pod. It's always sadder when an animal dies than when a human dies.
100%.
Yeah. And that's Dule Hill, one of my faves too. But that donkey, oh my God.
I know, that boy's like 100 and something, just loved his onions.
He sure did.
I will remember you.
She decides to seek revenge, and she becomes Kissing Kate Barlow, an outlaw, where she kisses you and then she kills you. Bang, she says.
Do you remember how it starts?
With her going to like the sheriff's station?
Yeah, because he like tried to kiss her.
Yeah,
and that was her origin story.
Yeah, so is that Trout? Or is that the sheriff?
That's the sheriff. She went to the sheriff for help, and he was like,
yes.
I can't help you.
Yeah.
And then he was like, give me a kiss. And she was like, get off me. No.
Oh, sheriff voice. Very good.
Thank you.
Oh, we're always blessed. And we got Hagrid, we got Michael Caine, and now we got the sheriff. Give me a kiss, he says. Woo.
He says, give me a kiss. And she's like, no.
He's like the town drunk. A bubble comes out.
Yeah. She's like, I don't think so. And then, and then she comes back the next day and she's like,
bang, bang.
She's like, you still want that kiss?
Nice. Anyway, so she goes on like a full-on rampage and ends up taking out a lot of the men, but also just like stealing gold along the way. And one such victim that she steals some gold from is the very first Stanley Yelnats. Stanley Yelnats the first, who gets his gold taken away from him. I think some other people get shot, but he just gets left for dead. Hello, Millie.
She's like, I remember this part of the film.
And we find out that the only way that he was able to survive was he found God's thumb. A mountainscape, or well, we don't know what it is just yet, but we find out later that it's a mountainscape where there's water and there's food, sweet, sweet onions.
Sweet onions.
Yeah, but again, it's the same mountain that his father took the pig up every day. So, lots of coinky dinks. Wait.
What?
How can it be the same mountain if his father moved to America after that?
Wait, who's dead?
So, Ilya, or whatever the one before the first Stanley is, he was walking the pig up the mountain, and then when he gets denied, he decides to move to America.
I'm sure it's just something.
Holes? More like plot holes. Oh my goodness, we're going to crack this thing wide open. Anyway, so that's the whole storyline there. And so it explains the curse for Stanley. It explains how Kissing Kate Barlow got some gold treasure. And then it finally ends with her burying it because she comes back to the lake years later and she buries it there once it's all dried up. And the owner of the lake, old Trout, is now poor because all of his money was invested in the lake itself. So if it's dried up, he ain't got no money. And he holds her at gunpoint and asks where the treasure is, but she loves the fact that he'll never be able to find it, and he'll drive himself insane out there digging for it. And then she grabs a big old CGI yellow spotted lizard. She gets it to bite her, and then bleh, she's dead.
Bleh.
Yeah.
They're just bearded dragons that are sometimes just purely bearded dragons.
With the spots painted on?
No, sometimes they're just plain bearded dragons. They don't even CGI over the top of them or paint them because they like yellow and they just forget to put on the spots.
So lazy.
And then sometimes they're lizards with spots painted on them, and then other times they're just some CGI nightmare.
CGI nightmare. Yeah, look, they're not so much of a nightmare because they're lizards as opposed to, humans. When humans have CGI faces, that freaks you out. You get that uncanny valley thing, but they're not good. They're not good. So now we know what they're all digging for. And Stanley starts digging. He's wearing his cool Legionnaire's hat with the big flap at the back of it.
Flappy Dappy.
Starts bonding with Zero a little bit as well, because he mentions about how he got in there with the shoes. And Zero's like, oh, was there a red tick on them? And you're like...
It's a red cross.
A red cross or whatever
They probably couldn't say red tick because it's probably...
Trademark?
Yeah.
Well, the red cross would be trademark too.
Yeah, but they're less finicky about shoes than Nike.
But as soon as he says that, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. Zero stole the shoes.
Yeah.
So how did he know about it? And again, that's a plot point. You have to wait ages for it to actually play out.
You gotta wait for the payoff.
You gotta wait for the payoff.
Maybe he was just really into shoes.
Maybe just loved shoes.
Maybe he just loved his little shoes on his little feet.
Was it a red tick or was it a red cross? So as they're bonding, he asks him to teach him how to read. And fair enough, Stanley's like, nah, I wouldn't be any good at that. Millie, that is so disruptive. So yeah, he asks him to read, and I get it. Like, Stanley was like, nah. And you're watching it and you're like, Stanley, that's a bit mean. But at the same time, it's like, that's a pretty tricky thing to teach someone to do, especially after a full day of digging holes.
That's true.
So
that's the last thing you want to do.
Oh, yeah. After a full day of digging holes, 100%.
Full day out in the garden, you're like, take your English and leave.
And leave. Get out of here, I say. Go on, get. So, yeah, they're long days. They're very, very tough. He starts digging without gloves, like an Indian. But we see, like, the sun is beating down. They have minimal water. Their food is disgusting. But I like the parallel between the realistic situation that's going on and what he writes to his mum. Mm-hmm. And he's like, camp is great. I'm having a lovely time at camp, and explains everything that's bad, but, like, flips it to make it like, I'm making lots of new friends, and it's like he gets into a punch-on with someone. You'd only hope that his mum would also have the same courtesy of writing back and saying things are good at home as well, so he doesn't have to take on that stress.
Does she? We see her writing a letter. And
she's like, oh, well, I'm glad you're having a good time. Things are shit at home. Your dad's bad at inventing things.
Classic.
Oh, yeah. So he's a nicer person than she. Hello, you listening?
Yeah.
Got to keep up.
She's listening very intently.
So we get the first CGI lizard attack with Stanley. And this is a bit of a weird scene. What's Jon Voight doing in this film?
He's just there.
He's given it everything, but I'm not sure he's making all the choices I'd make. He got his big Elvis Pompadom thing. Is that what it's called? It's not Pompadom.
He's got a Pompadom.
He's got a quiff.
Yeah.
I think that's something. I'll look it up. I'll put a definition in
I'm pretty
here.
sure there's an Indian food.
No, that's Pompadom.
Yeah, what were you saying?
Pompadom. They're really different.
Slightly different emphasis.
Yeah. Like, you gotta listen. You gotta
on
listen.
the syllable.
Put my emphasis on the wrong syllables. But yeah, he's coming in and he's squatting. He's got his gun out here and he's just like shooting at the lizard. He's out of his mind.
What's the cartoon that he's like?
Yosemite Sam?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what he based that character on.
Can I hear your Yosemite Sam voice?
No.
I don't know what he sounds like. I can think of like the hunter where he's like, I'm hunting wabbits. But what does Yosemite Sam sound like?
I don't know actually, so that's fine.
Exactly like Jon Voight in this movie.
Yosemite Sam, the roughest, toughest He-Man, stuffest hombre has ever crossed the Rio Grande.
But the CGI lizards aren't the only ones who are jerks. The kids are being real jerks to Stanley. He's getting in a few, like, fights or, like, they're stealing stuff off him. And I really like how Zero is always, like, ready to back him.
Yeah.
Like, at one point, he, like, has the pool cue. And then at another point, you see him and he's, like, grabbing, like, the pool ball as well. And you're like, oh, he's going to crack someone in the face with that.
He's like, don't mess with him.
He's a little pocket rocket, Zero.
I know. He's my favorite.
He's very good. He is very good. But eventually, Stanley does become accepted. He gets his own nickname, Caveman. I can't remember why. It's like he almost gets in a fight, and they're like, "Oh, we're going to start calling you Caveman."
Yeah, I forget too.
I don't know. But they never give Zero a nickname. Like, you would think Zero is his nickname, but it's like, that's Zeroni. He doesn't have, like, a cool nickname like everyone else. And Stanley even gets, like, bumped up in the line and, like, push Zero back. So mean. So mean.
So mean.
I don't get it. Zero should be way more popular. He keeps to himself. He digs fast. Why don't people like him?
Because the camp counselor is a real piece of work.
He is, yeah. Oh, they're all just following Jacoby's lead. And just to really hammer home that he has been accepted, do you know what they do?
They go, you're accepted. You're accepted.
I was like, where are you going with that?
I didn't know.
They have a dance sequence. Armpit comes out and he's like,
oh, yeah. That's
woo!
how you know.
Smell my armpit, he says, and does this. And they're all like, oh!
And then they almost all go into dance, but then they decide not to.
Yeah, and then the scene just ends. It's strange. It is strange.
It was almost a High School Musical.
Yeah.
For real. Yes, but it didn't happen.
No, it didn't happen.
Oh, she loves.
Yeah, she's a good girl, but she's very, very warm.
I know.
So Stanley finds a gold lipstick when he's digging. And X-Ray, I'm pretty sure it is X-Ray. He's the one with the glasses and the bandana.
Yeah.
He threatens him because he's like, nobody ever finds nothing. So you got to give it to me because I've been here the longest.
Yeah.
It's like, that shouldn't be how that works. But he's a bit of a jerk.
But alas.
He steals it away from him, and Stanley suggests that he uses it the next day so that he can get the entire day off as opposed to whatever's left of that one. Throws it in like a hole right at the start of the day, gets the day off, and then the warden gets called in because this is a big find. This is very, very exciting. And Sigourney Weaver is cooking in this scene. She is doing everything, and I am loving every minute of it. I was just eating it all up. It was so good. So she comes in, she's very, very excited, and she then tells the counselor, Jacoby, who I don't know his name. It's written in my notes somewhere. She tells him to fill up everyone's water.
Fill up everyone's canteens.
Canteens? No, I don't think they're canteens. They're just bottles of, they're like milk jugs.
Yeah, but she calls them canteens.
Does she?
Or cantinas.
Put the clip in here.
Canteens. Yeah.
But first, fill everyone's canteen.
I already filled them.
Excuse me?
I had already filled them when you drove up in the car.
Excuse me? Did I ask you when you last filled them?
And she picks it up and she goes, can you hear the empty spaces? It's so funny. I love it. She's so threatening, and like, she just can't stand being told anything contrary to what she says.
But she can't. She's stuck around dumb men.
Oh my God.
Boy, and so she's like, how about you just fill them up again?
It's very, very good. And I love that, Jacob's immediately put in his place. And Mr. Sir, they keep cutting to John Voight, and he's like,
why does he sound like Dr. Hibbert?
I don't know, but he's having a grand old time laughing and sniggering to himself. Like, he acts like a little kid through most of the film.
Yeah.
So they all concentrate their digging in that one area. But of course, they're digging in the wrong place.
Belloc staff is too long. They're digging in the wrong place.
So 4 days later, they still haven't found anything because obviously It's not the
They're
right
digging
place.
in the wrong place.
But the holes are so big at this point that you'd think that they probably would have overlapped with the area that was the right place.
Yeah. Also, how do they know that it's going to be exactly that deep?
Well, yeah, I suppose.
Like, there's a good chance that somebody's just dug a hole over it.
That's a good point, too.
Like, do we know that it's exactly going to be...
Everybody
within the
knows that
shovel?
Kissing Kate Barlow only digs 5-foot deep holes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I
What
did
if-
not think about that.
You're welcome.
After 4 days of not finding anything, they decide to go back to digging their own individual holes. And that's when, I don't know which character does it, but someone steals Mr. Sir's sunflower seeds, and Stanley takes the fall for it,
yeah.
and gets taken to the warden. And again, John Voight's like, well, I found him doing this thing, and you're like, are you an idiot? You know she's going to be pissed off because you said, hey, we found something in a hole. She's going to be super excited, and you're like, what we found in the hole was my own sunflower seeds.
And she's like, you're an idiot.
You're an idiot. Thanks for wasting my time and getting my hopes up.
Yeah.
And then she puts on, like, the nail polish that's venomous and, like, smacks John Voight in the face.
She's like, rattlesnake.
And he's like, oh.
She's like, I like how it makes the colors.
Yeah. Stanley gets off scot-free.
Yeah.
So when he gets back, he sees that Zero has dug his hole for him so that he won't have to do the work upon returning. And that's when he decides, all right, you're a good kid. I'm going to teach you how to read. And they have like a little bit of a montage of him learning how to read over time. But it starts to make some of the other boys a bit mad that Zero's digging his holes for him while he's reading.
Yeah.
And like that wasn't initially part of the deal. He was like, I'll teach you how to read. And Zero's like, oh, now you're getting tired from digging the holes. I'll help you out a little bit. So he digs like half his hole for him.
Yeah.
Because Zero's the fastest hole digger on the plantation.
He's a little mole.
He's a little mole. That sounds... I like him. I didn't mean it
But I
like
think
that.
that's what they call him, don't they? They say that he's...
They call him Hans Mole Man, I believe.
Yeah.
And we also find out while they're bonding that his mum went missing. But he hasn't been... Like, he doesn't have any resources to track her down.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, as I said, the kids are getting a little bit pissed off that Zero's digging the hole. Not the whole hole, just half the hole. They get into a little bit of a fight. And I think it's Zigzag, the blonde, floopy one.
I don't know.
I think I probably, if I had to be one of them, I'm probably Zigzag.
Do you reckon Millie's Zero?
Yes, absolutely. But I think it's Zigzag that attacks Stanley because, yeah, he's just pissed off and he's a bit fed up with it. And this one I felt was weird because they'd presented other characters that had more, like, that were butting heads with Stanley more. Zigzag's always been like, come on over, like, hang out.
For some reason, he just suddenly
now
went
he's
nuts.
pissed off at him. And it's a big mistake because old pool ball slinging Zero, he's ready to pounce. And yeah, he like grabs him around the throat and full on takes him to the ground. He almost kills him, almost strangles him to death. And yeah, the counselor dude, Jacoby, I'm just going to keep calling him that, says something about Zero, like once he breaks him up, he's like, yeah, Zero's good for nothing, or something along those lines. And Zero's like, I am fed up with this shit. Bang, smacks him, knocks him out cold with the shovel.
Which is fair.
And just runs off. Oh, totally fair. I'm pretty sure I cheered when that happened.
We were all wanting it to happen.
We were all wanting it to happen. And yeah, he runs off into the distance and you're like, uh-oh, he's screwed. No water for 100 miles. What is gonna happen?
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. And we really start to find out just how evil all the counselors are at this point. Like, we knew this guy's pretty bad, but John Voight even, like, takes his gun out as Zero's running off. He's like, I wasn't going to shoot him. Then why did you take your gun out?
No, isn't it then the
Sigourney Weaver tells him not to.
Yeah, she's like, what are you going to do, shoot him?
And he's like, I wasn't going to shoot him. It's like, well, yeah, obviously. Anyway, and we find out she's super evil too because she's like, will anyone come looking for him? No, great. We'll just let him die out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he doesn't really have a family. It's going to be fine.
Sigourney Weaves.
Jace, dark. And then we get this pointless intro to a brand new character called Twitch. And I'm glad that Twitch is introduced very late in the game because I think I even said when when he came in, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
he's going to be annoying. He's like, and so anyway, I was stealing cars and
When I walk past a really nice car, I just start twitching, you know? And like, oh, you think I'm jumpy now? You should have seen me behind the wheel of that Mustang convertible. Whew.
It's like you get introduced and then it's like, and montage.
Yeah. Yeah, you get introduced and then...
He's in a montage.
He's included, like, with the group and that's it. Like, that's the end of it.
Yeah, he helps steal the car.
Well, this is what... I think it's a pointless inclusion because he's in there for stealing cars. And so I figure, he's going to play into Thingo's car getting... Mr. Sir's car getting stolen. But Stanley steals the car. And even though... Twitch is there, it doesn't really look like he's teaching Stanley how to do it. It all happens so quickly, so it's like...
Yeah, it just looks like he gets in it and
just don't feel like your character needed to be introduced.
I agree.
But yeah, also stealing the car doesn't really pay off because he immediately drives it into a hole.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's very funny. I laughed a lot when that happens and the water just goes like... Very good. So he ends up running off too, just like Zero.
Yeah.
And so he's searching through the desert, trying to find him, and he comes across an overturned boat. And there he is. There's Zero. And at first we're like, is he dead?
He's dead.
He's dead. But no, he's alive. He's been surviving off, what's he call it?
Stewed peaches.
No. Oh, is it stewed peaches?
It is stewed peaches.
Stewed peaches, but what does he call it? He calls it something. Sploosh. He calls it sploosh. And not just sploosh.
But glass-filled sploosh.
Glass-filled sploosh. He's like, ka-chink.
He's like, have some of this. And I was like, oh.
That would be filled with shards of glass.
And I'm like, you gonna die.
Yeah, I really hope they swapped it out on set after he smashed it, because otherwise those actors would have been drinking glass.
Oh, 100% they would have.
Yeah, I'm 100%. This was the days where actors 100% committed to their characters and they had to drink glass.
No, there's definitely some OHS people on set. It was probably like sugar glass or something.
Oh, yeah. And... yeah, so we go on a bit of a journey with them, but they do cut back at one stage to the camp, and the boys are like discussing the odds of Zero and Stanley being alive. And it's like, same as the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy. And then some kid goes, yeah, and maybe my mum will stop drinking and my dad will come home.
Oh, yeah, I was like, oh.
It's so dark.
A little dark humor.
Oh, yeah.
I guess
yeah.
They're in like a juvie detention reform
yeah,
program.
They probably got bad home lives. Yeah, that's fair.
You know, it's probably not.
And the warden decides that what they're going to do with Stanley, because he obviously does have a family, people that will come looking for him, they will wait 2 weeks, then they will report that he's missing as if he's just gone missing that day. But by that stage, he'll already be dead.
It's a little too late.
Very, very dark. And yeah, Stanley's lawyer even turns up. And so their plan is kind of...
because he gets...
thrown... He gets pardoned, or like, what do they call it? His verdict gets overturned.
Yes.
Are you okay with that phrasing?
Yes.
So yeah, because his verdict gets overturned, they're a little bit screwed because the lawyer has turned up and they're like, you can't see him now. And she's like, well, I'll be back.
Nothing to see here.
She doesn't have a very big role, but I like the lawyer.
Yeah.
She's just like strong character who doesn't want to take their shit.
She's no nonsense and she's just doing her job.
She's wearing a smart pantsuit. Love that.
Power suit.
Although I don't know if a power suit in that kind of weather really is a smart pantsuit.
I don't think they call it a smart suit, do they?
Yeah. Look at smart in your suit. Never heard that before?
No.
Maybe you've never looked smart in your suit. I get it all the time.
I'm very smart right now in this suit.
You
okay?
do. You look very smart. Anyway, so Zero and Stanley go off on their own little journey after they've had some sploosh. They go off and they see God's thumb. So Stanley remembers the stories that his
granddad
pa and his grandpa have told him. And he remembered that's how his great-granddaddy was saved, with God's thumb. And there's a mountain that looks like this. It's just expositional Mady standing there going on top of a mountain. And so they decide to climb. But unfortunately, Zero is very weak. He's been out there a little bit longer than Stanley has. And so Stanley ends up having to carry him up the mountain.
It comes full circle.
Full circle. So even though his great-great-great-granddaddy didn't carry Madame Zeroni up there, he carries Zero up there and the curse is broken. And because the curse is broken, lots of things start happening. So his dad can start inventing things. They find there's sweet onions up there to eat. There's water there. I did say that it's still water, so like you probably shouldn't drink that. But since you've been drinking glass, it's an improvement.
It's really anyone's game.
It's a bit of a step. Anyone's game.
If you survive that, have some still water.
Yeah. And at this point, Zero confesses that he did steal the shoes, and I'm like, duh. And Stanley's very cool with it.
Yeah, because he's a cool guy.
Everything happens for a reason, man.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Now we broke the curse, and my dad can invent some.
He just knows. Shoes. He hasn't gone home yet, but he's like, I bet my dad.
He's like, I have a feeling.
He's cracked it. So they decide they're going to sneak back to the holes, and they're going to dig up around the area where Stanley found the lipstick.
Yes.
And they know what it is because like Stanley had a very distinctive rock that he left there.
Yeah.
So they go, they dig it up, they find the treasure, and then Lizzie's everywhere. This is the universal sign for Lizzie's. And so just when they're about to escape, the warden comes out and she's like, hand over the treasure. But because the Lizzies are there, they can't get close to them. But the boys are okay because they've been eating those sweet, sweet onions. Sam said they were good. And I actually didn't believe him when his character was introduced. I thought he was like a con man peddler. And he's like, oh, eat the sweet onions and the lizards won't hurt you. But he was right.
That makes his death even more unjust.
Yeah, he said, boys, I can fix that.
Have some sweet onions.
Have some sweet, sweet onions. How disgusting does that sound to you? They're eating onions. Like, it's like, what's it taste like? What does he say? Like ice cream or a milkshake or something.
And it's like, no, it tastes like...
It's a real sassapans.
It tastes like hardcore acidic.
Yeah, it tastes like disgusting. That's what it tastes like.
I mean, if you're starving, you'd eat them, but it wouldn't be my...
Wouldn't be my go-to. If there was a buffet and they just had uncooked onions there.
Giant uncooked
eat them like
onions.
hand fruit. That's good eating. I do like too when the so you've got Mr. Sir there and you've got the warden there, and Thingo comes later. I need to know his name. What's his name?
Nice. His name's Thingo.
Jacoby.
Camp Jacoby.
Ed. I think his name is Ed.
It's too late now. You've said Jacoby the whole podcast.
All right. Jacoby finds him and he just casually walks over to them and then he's like, oh my goodness.
There's some lizards.
He's like, what's going on over here? Oh. But fortunately, the lawyer turns up again and she's there with law enforcement this time.
Yeah, she's like, give me my client.
Yeah, and they do. They give the client. She also gets to keep the treasure because it was Stanley's ancestor. It's got Stanley Yilnats written on it. So they're able to take it as well.
Because they all have the same names.
Yeah, that was lucky. And Zero's like, isn't that your name backwards?
And they were like, you can't read, Zero. You idiot.
Classic Jacoby. So the other thing that they are able to do is they're able to get Zero out of there because when they were trying to cover up his disappearance, they ended up destroying all of his paperwork. So since they don't have paperwork for him to be there, that's how the law works, right?
Yes.
Just take him on. And Marion also gets arrested for carrying a weapon, which is a breach of his parole. And then the other two just get arrested as well because of suspicious circumstances.
Yeah, or maybe it's like
they just want to kind of wrap everything up very, very quickly.
But also they destroyed government documents.
Yeah, but
they failed to report.
There's no real
missing
proof
kids.
of any of this. But it all just kind of wraps up quickly. It finally rains. There's hugs amongst the boys, even the ones that didn't really strike me as the hugging kind.
Yeah, it's a hugging moment.
Yeah, old Armpit's like, tell my mom I said hi, and my name's Theodore.
Yeah, he's like, tell Theodore.
Tell Theodore. Tell me. Tell Theodore.
Me to tell my mom to tell you.
Oh, dear. And Zero and Stanley end up splitting the millions.
Very cute.
Yeah. Oh, and they even find Zero's mum.
Even better.
It's like, wow, we wrapped it all up. Thank God they had a narrator to be able to just tie up all those
Oh my goodness.
expositional
You couldn't have followed it otherwise.
Yeah. And yeah, it's all very silly. They become neighbors in the end. For some reason.
Because they're cute.
Yeah, but it's weird. It's very, very strange. Have a big pool party. Stanley's dad's able to sell his foot odor thingy, which they now call Sploosh.
Because it's peaches and onions.
It really is like, what are all the plot points that came up in this film and how can we bring them all together right at the end?
Yeah.
We're going to call it Sploosh. It's going to be made of peaches and onions and we're going to give it to Clyde Livingston.
Correct.
The guy who gave his shoes away at the end. Old Sweet Feet. And his wife's like, now he really does have sweet feet. And yeah, that's it. That's it. Or is it? We get one final scene where Zero threatens the curse at the end.
Oh, I don't remember.
It's like a little credit moment. And don't forget to come back from Madame Zeroni, or you and your family will be cursed always and forever. It's a weird moment. He's just like sitting on the rocking chair with his big like tub of water. It's like it's something they filmed like behind the scenes.
And they're like,
just
pretending.
Let's just put it in there.
They're like, this is kind of funny. Let's just do that.
Yeah, it's weird.
Done.
It's a weird moment to cap off a weird film. Now let us dust our hands of it forever. No, look, I will say this. The kids seemed pretty keen to do this. It got a few votes a few times at film clubs, so we knew we were going to circle back to it. And lots of people, a couple of staff members too, have been quite surprised that I hadn't seen this. And maybe it's just I'm watching it a little bit too late to appreciate it, but I really did feel like there are things in it where it doesn't seem like it's aimed at kids, but so many other aspects of it definitely are. And it doesn't really get that balance right where it's like, oh, it's a film that's for kids, but parents will enjoy watching it with the kids. Because, I just find it messy.
It's like a adolescence film, an early adolescence film.
Yeah. I will say I didn't like have a bad time watching it. It was fine, but I probably wouldn't return to it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Cool. Shall we move on to weekly watches? Weekly watches. Weekly watches. I love you. So I've had quite the week for weekly watches, but a lot of my weekly watches are also your weekly watches. So it works out well because I prefer that. We can have a little bit of a discussion about it. But also because we were delayed, it meant that I got a couple more weekly watches in the meantime as well. But I want to kick things off with Sweetpea, which both you and I watched.
Yeah.
Mini-series, I think 8 episodes or so on Binge. It's got Ella Purnell. A lot of people would know her from Fallout. She's the main character in that. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. It's essentially about her character being quite timid and shy and people sort of step all over her or don't even notice her at all.
Yeah.
And one day, a few things go wrong in a row. I won't go into too much detail, no spoilies. But after that, she's had enough and she decides to lash out against the people that have ignored her or
she's like
done bad things to her.
Yeah, she's like reclaiming her life back in a way.
Yeah, in a very violent way. She's reclaiming her life in a very violent way.
Yeah.
And I always find these stories really interesting because you're rooting for this main character who is doing bad things. It's like watching something like Dexter and being like, I don't want Dexter to get caught.
Yeah.
And I always find those shows really interesting because it's like, how do you know where the line is between like, all right, now you've gone too far. I'm not rooting for you anymore.
Yeah, I guess that's like, it's all about status and how the writers kind of work. That's good writing. They make like sympathetic villains. Dun, dun, dun.
And I would say that any time where it feels like it's going to go too far, they kind of find their way back as well.
Yeah.
But it was very good. And I mean, Ella Purnell's great.
She's very good.
Yeah. She pretty much makes the show.
Oh, yeah.
But there are some really good other ensemble cast members that support her as well. So, yeah, like, as we said, mature kind of themes and stuff in it. But, yeah, it's a good watch. Check it out.
Yeah.
Next on my list, and this is a bad one, Mr. Right. So this was one we watched where it had Anna Kendrick and Sam Rockwell in it. What were your thoughts of Mr. Right?
It is insane.
Yeah, more like Mr. Wrong, am I right?
It's just like an insane, it's like a parody film, but like not.
You would think a romantic comedy movie about an assassin with Sam Rockwell and Anna Kendrick how could you go wrong with that? But they managed to. The writing is just terrible. And Anna Kendrick and Sam Rockwell do kind of get by a little bit on their natural charm.
Yeah.
Like there's a few moments where you're like, that's good. Of course, Sam Rockwell has a dance sequence in it, as always. Yeah, some of the writing, especially like the writing that they have for Anna Kendrick to show like how awkward she is with people.
Yeah,
I'm like,
it's definitely...
it really does her a disservice.
Yeah, but I almost feel like it's like supposed to. I feel like it was like written, it was like supposed to be a bad movie.
Yeah, well then mission accomplished. Good job. I also want to talk about Vampire's Kiss. So this one I had never seen before, and that is outrageous. I'm a big Nicolas Cage fan. We did Vampire Halloween here. Some of the decor is still around. Laszlo Cravensworth. But even though I'm a huge Nicolas Cage fan, I had never seen this before, and I am very disappointed after seeing it with myself. The film was great. I think this is one of his best. And in terms of what everyone thinks of Nicolas Cage performances, this might be the most Nicolas Cage has ever been.
This is one where he's like, I'm a vampire.
I'm a vampire.
I'm a vampire.
Yeah, it's wild. The best way I can describe it is it's kind of like American Psycho, but instead of having that line where you're like, what's real, what's not, for the most part, you know a lot of it isn't real, and he's just losing his mind. And that is a really interesting perspective. It doesn't leave you with as many questions about like what's going on here. It just has you kind of watching his descent into madness. But yeah, the entire film works as a metaphor for his lifestyle, and I really think it works more for like his dominance in the world and how he feels like he has control over people. And at this point where he invites a woman back to his place and she decides not to stay the night, he then interprets that as her being a vampire and starts hallucinating her in his life more. And he's going on this transition. And yeah, the descent into madness is amazing. And he has this great rant where he goes through the alphabet because he's talking about filing. He's like, A, B, C, D, E. I've never misfiled anything in my life.
She's into it. She loved it.
You know, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Huh? That's all you have to do.
Very good. You know your alphabet.
I never misspelled anything. Not once, not one time.
It's a really good one. It's quirky, it's weird, it's out there, but it's all Nick Cage.
Something that I watched? From.
Love From.
We both watched it.
Yeah, go for it.
We watched a couple of episodes because we kind of waited until they'd release some. I think now they're releasing them every Monday. I don't know. I don't want to give too many like spoilies away.
I've talked about From on the pod before. That's
cool.
fine.
Well, we're on like season 3 now. It's good, but I don't know if it's going to have like a satisfactory ending. I don't know if I'm going to be happy with the answers because it keeps getting like, I don't know. We learn more and more information, but the more I watch it, the more I think that actually the writers don't know how it's going to end.
Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah, because there are a lot of things that there are so many things that we don't know yet. That we gotta wait, we gotta find out, we gotta keep watching Meals.
Millie has been watching it as well. That's fair.
Yeah.
We say like it's from the producers of Lost, and we often say like, I wonder if it'll be like Lost, where they don't know where it's actually going.
But I like it. Like it's definitely, considering like the episode's like almost an hour, like they go pretty fast. And
I'm surprised that I'm still this engaged by the concept. I thought it would have worn thin by now, but that's really good. And I think the cast really helps with that too. You care about the characters, so when things go wrong or people die, you're like, not that person.
You're like, no.
Billy Bob. I also watched a lot of Jim Carrey this week, but we're doing The Mask next week on the pod, so
You better save it for that.
Yeah, it'll come up then.
You got to talk about his repertoire.
That's it. But the last one I do want to mention, we both watched Gladiator, and this was one, believe it or not, that I had never seen before, but you
Which
have.
was I'm so surprised that you hadn't seen it.
Everyone always says that. I'm not a big, historical epics kind of person.
But it's won lots of awards, and, it's pretty,
That doesn't necessarily mean anything to me. If it's not a genre I'm interested in, why would I care if it had won lots of awards? It's it's really good at doing that thing you don't like. It's well...
But, okay, did you like it?
I did like it. So,
Are you not entertained?
obviously with the new one coming out, people have been oh, are you going to go see it? And I'm I haven't seen the first one. What? So eventually I sat down to watch it, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. And I think part of why I enjoyed it is this is something that a lot of other historical epics get wrong. The pacing of it felt really good. You connect with the characters. Russell Crowe is just
he's so
killing
good.
it. His face is doing everything. There is so much acting going on there. You see him going through waves of emotion throughout the film. When he's challenged, you see him go to fight it and then be no, I need to restrain myself.
He's so good. He gets really into it.
He is really, really incredible in the role, and the action is awesome. That part where that person just gets split in two.
It's sing.
It's amazing. And lots of practical effects as well, which is a real, real bonus. So, yeah, I liked it.
Good storytelling.
I'm still not I'm going to race out to the cinemas to see the new one, but I will see it at some stage, whether it's in the cinemas or a home screening.
A home screening.
Alrighty, shall we move on to Tantalising Trailers?
Sure.
Tantalizing films. Trailers. Don't know if we will be a fan. How will it be? We'll know in time.
So again, like weekly watchers, a bit of a different Tantalising Trailers because we've both seen all of these ones. Or some of these ones. There's some crossover.
Yeah.
Yeah. First one I want to talk about, the big one of the week, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. So originally titled Dead Reckoning Part 2, they've renamed it, which is very frustrating because now I have the Blu-ray of Dead Reckoning Part 1 and then The Final Reckoning, and they're going to re-release that Blu-ray and it's going to have that Part 1 removed, and I'm going to be missing out.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I think we kind of talked about this today in relation to what film?
Wicked.
Wicked, yes. So Darcy in the office was talking about how Wicked was being split into two parts, which I didn't know that, but I didn't know because the first one's just called Wicked, and then it's going to be Wicked Part 2, which is very clever marketing because then you get people coming along to screen it, or to watch it, sorry, and they're like, yeah, well, I'm going to get the whole film.
I'm going to get the whole story of Wicked.
They don't feel jibbed, but I think the box office numbers for Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 were a little low. It was competing with Barbie and Oppenheimer as well, so that was another thing too. But they suspected that part of it was people were not thrilled to go and see half a movie.
Yeah.
Which, I get that. But this looks great. It really does seem like it's going to be the last film, whether it's the last film in the Mission Impossible series ever, or whether it's just the last one for a while, or the last one with Tom Cruise. I hope it's not. I love these films. I could watch these until Tom Cruise was in his 90s and just breaking hips left, right, and center. But I will say that he looks tired in this trailer.
Yeah.
He looks like, I've been doing this too long.
I think I also I don't like trailers that give away too much. I just want a little taste. I don't want to be able to put together any story.
Did you think this gave away too much?
I think it kind of did, and it was so, I don't know. It felt like a long trailer, and it was also, I was like, all right, I get it. We're going to cut between so many scenes in a row. It was like, scene, 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 scene. I was like, I get it. It's an action movie.
Yeah, it was a rapid cut.
And I just think it gives, because the cinematography in these movies is so good and it's such a big, pulling point. I don't want to see it all.
Yeah.
Just give me some, give me some key dialogue parts. Give me a little like of a relationship or something. Give me something to care about. Give me something I want to see more of. But don't show me like everything.
Yeah.
So I have a fit.
Yeah, it's tricky because it was like they showed you everything, but they showed you nothing. Because it's so quick, it's like, well, we saw all the set pieces, but we didn't really understand how they played into things.
Yeah, that's true.
One thing that does intrigue me about it does seem like they're going to rope in stuff from older films, whether that's just him reflecting on all of his times that he's previously had, all of his previous missions, or whether it actually will play into the storyline. I don't know. I hope it does play into the storyline because I'm a huge Mission Impossible fan, so I love it when they do callbacks to things that have happened previously. But it got me jazzed.
Got you jazzed.
Got me very, very jazzed. F, marry, kill. So it looks like it's a bit of a thriller, romance, comedy. It's got Lucy Hale in it from Pretty Little Liars.
Nice.
She's on this dating website. She matches with 3 different guys. She ends up dating all 3 of them. And she's also listening to like a murder podcast, like a true crime murder podcast that is currently happening. So she starts to think maybe she's dating the murderer. And it kind of leads her to think it's one of them, but then another one says something else or does something else suspicious, and then she thinks it's them. And it looks like it's a really fun balance of like that mystery thriller aspect, but a lot of comedy. And she like chats about it with her friends, and I think that'll be like a good source of comedy as well.
Cool.
Yeah, it looks like a bit of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That does sound fun.
Next up, back in action. So it's Cameron Diaz and Jamie Foxx. They are former CIA spies, but I think they're like parents now to 2 kids.
Yeah.
And they're just when they thought they were out, they're pulled back in.
There's the Jason Bourne line.
Yes. They say they're like Jason Bourne, except they don't forget things.
Yeah. Except we remember.
Yeah. Something like that. It has a real Mr. and Mrs. Smith vibe to it.
Yeah.
The movie, not the TV show, but just like very silly. It also reminded me a little bit, partly because it's got Cameron Diaz in it, but you know that movie with Cameron Diaz and Tom Cruise, Night and Day?
Oh, yeah.
Where she like gets pulled into it, and it's very like jokey and like there's slow motion, but then there's like winks to the camera and stuff like that. Like, it looks like a bit of fun.
I think it'll be fun.
Yeah. Also want to talk No Good Deed. So this is a Netflix series with Ray Romano, Lisa Kudrow, Luke Wilson, Teyonah Parris, Linda Cardellini.
Oh my God, what a
cast. What a cast. So when I looked this up, it says that it is a comedy about a family that's trying to sell their house, and there's all these competing families that want to buy it. But the trailer doesn't come across as a straight comedy. So it's very funny, but it definitely seems like there's a mystery thriller element. So especially because of why they're so desperate to sell the house, it seems like something bad has happened in the house.
And the right couple, that's what they need to find.
Yeah. So it's piqued my interest, and I love this cast. Like, there are some really, really funny lines in it.
Margot. She looks like an AI-generated bitch.
But do you like Margot? Because I can't tell.
The mystery element has me really, really intrigued. But it doesn't give too much away. That perfect balance.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Looks good. No Good Deed. The last one I want to mention really, really quickly, it's called The Last Showgirl. And I don't really want to go into too much detail, but the reason I want to bring it up is because it is starring Pamela Anderson, and she looks like she is giving everything to this performance. So it's basically about a showgirl. I think it's set in like Las Vegas, and she's supposed to be like the last true like old era of showgirls, and it's like it means the world to her, and she might be having like the shittest day in the world. She might be like really, really upset, and then she goes on stage and she puts on her stage face, and it looks like it is, I mean, it's the kind of thing people would label as like Oscar bait. Like it's based on the performance, but honestly, I would watch it just to see Pamela Anderson do this incredible performance. Like,
yeah, why not?
She is captivating in the trailer, and there's already like all these reviews of like how well she's done in the role. And I think it's just really cool seeing her like commit to a character like that.
Yeah, good for her.
I haven't seen her do something in a very long time. She was cameoed in Scooby-Doo a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, especially something serious like this. So yeah, that really piqued my interest. So definitely worth checking out that trailer and seeing if it's up your alley.
Yeah, so cool.
Cool. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk?
No. I'm all good.
Righto, I get it. It's the jumpsuits. We want to get out of the jumpsuits.
Yes.
It's boiling. But as always, guys, I will remind people to like, subscribe, share it around, comment. What did you like? Comment with well wishes for Mr. Boylan. All of those things. Poor Mr. Boylan.
Mr. Boylan.
We would shed a tear if we weren't so dehydrated already.
Yeah.
And on that note, we are going to wrap things up. But if you forget to come back, Madame Zeroni will put a curse on you and your family. Thanks, guys, and catch you at the next film club.
Bye.